So, what is your time character? John Cottrell here from Breakthrough Leadership. So, you may not have thought about it, but actually the way people treat time is different depending on what you could say is just your personality. Sometimes they're what we call through time people and in time people. And when you look in a little bit more detail, you could say there's some people, certainly in the world of coaching, we talk about shiny object syndrome. And the shiny object syndrome, if you've ever seen little kids playing football, they all tend to run round in a swarm, like a swarm of bees, chasing the ball. And the shiny object syndrome is that there keeps being a new ball that everybody chases after. And so the shiny object people are permanently distracted. You know, they might be looking for a mobile phone, I haven't got mine near me, but they're, you know, on social media, a notification pops up, there's a text message has arrived, there's a phone call, all this stuff is going on, and it's permanent distraction, and this person needs to be, you know, I need to feel important by all the things that are going on in my life, but actually, are they really getting anything done? So if you're one of those shiny object people, be careful you're not in denial about that and you're not spending your whole life in what we call quadrant 3, which is stuff that appears urgent but simply isn't important. Yeah, and one of the ways you get clarity on what's important is by working out, you know, what are my plans, what are my objectives, and therefore what are the things I actually should be doing, rather than be distracting myself with kitten videos and all the other nonsense there is on social media. Remember, that stuff's there mostly to sell advertising for stuff that you don't need or don't want. Okay, so wise up to that, switch the social media off and get on with the rest of your life. Okay, so that's the shiny object person. The other person is, we'll call this the acceptor. And the acceptor is someone that accepts what happens rather than wants to change what happens. So the acceptor is someone that ever actually challenges things. You know, it is what it is, mustn't grumble, all the other nonsense that we say to ourselves. And this person basically gets carried along by things and by events without ever actually stopping to think about, well, does it have to be so? Please don't let that person be you. If it is you, start thinking about what your own needs really are. I remember one of the most emotional group coaching sessions I've ever run was when we started talking about the concept of assertiveness and recognizing, and this goes back to the UN Charter of Human Rights, I think in 1948, and actually going through that charter and just getting people to discuss it. And it was amazing how many people hadn't thought about their right to be heard and a whole load of things which some of us take for granted. And we realise there's all these gremlins in people's heads that cause them to accept things rather than try to change things. So again, please don't let that person be you. If you need help with that, do get in touch. Okay, so that's the second person. The third time person is the overanalyzer. You get a lot of these people in the fields of law, accounting, a lot of professional services, where a detail orientation is important. You wouldn't want a nuclear safety engineer not to have an eye for detail, would you? I mean, it doesn't bear thinking about, right? And there's many non-safety critical areas where detail is important. The problem is that detail isn't important all the time. And so what happens for these people is they overanalyze everything. They never have enough detail, so they never decide. So what happens is the clock is still turning. You know, you can hear one in the background ticking away. That doesn't stop, but they haven't made their decision. So what happens is they end up wasting an inordinate amount of time. And of course, because they're conscientious people, that builds up the level of stress, worry, anxiety that they feel. And over time, it makes them feel incredibly depressed. So if you're one of those people that needs to overanalyze everything, just ask yourself, what would happen if I trusted my judgment on this? And if you like to play the game, very simple, think about it this way. You've got a task comes up, you probably have enough expertise to know the answer straight away, so write that down. And then see how long would you normally want to think about it, reflect on it, analyze, research, get more data over whatever period of time. And then see, does your answer change? Because you know what, 90% of the time it probably doesn't. And then you have to ask yourself, will anybody die if I get this wrong? And again, the chances are for most people, most of the time, nobody will. And so therefore you can actually test your idea by implementing it and seeing what happens. And then if you don't like the result, fine, how could you change what you do? How could you improve what you do to make sure it works better next time? This is how we develop. The Wright brothers didn't design an aeroplane perfectly, take off and fly into the sunset. They probably built one, crashed, built one, crashed, built one, crashed many, many times before they finally had that successful test flight. And believe it or not, that's how the rest of us do it. So if you're one of those people that needs to overanalyze and waste a lot of time doing that, please stop doing that and start testing. You'll find that life gets a lot easier. And then the last type of person is the more directive person. And they're actually the type of people who are more likely to be being interrupted and doing the interruption themselves. They like to be in the thick of the battle, more like to be the firefighter. They like the heroics of it. But actually what happens is they're wasting a lot of their own time and other people's time. So this is you. Just think about the fact, do you actually need to put in your 2 pence worth to this conversation? Or can you actually trust people to get on with it? And are you letting people interrupt you because you want to be at the centre of everything and actually you don't need to be? And that may be, again, for business critical or safety critical items. It may be that you do need to be the person that signs something off, but do you have to be involved in every step of the journey? Probably not. So start thinking about where those boundaries need to be so that you have a more productive and less stressful life. So whichever one of those 4 applies to you, you know, are you shiny objects? Are you accept rather than challenge or change? Are you the overanalyzer? Are you the interrupter? Which one of those 4? Please don't tell me it's all of them, because it could be. But think about what are the simple things you could do to improve your relationship with time. If you need a hand, you know where I am, please get in touch. Otherwise, give us a like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.